You know that feeling when you finally hit your savings goal? And instead of feeling financially secure, you just have this quiet, nagging sense that something is still off? It's like you did everything right. You read all the articles, you followed the conventional advice, you built up your emergency fund, and you parked it in a nice savings account just like every financial expert on the internet told you to. And yet, somehow, you still feel totally stuck. Well, welcome to this explainer where we're going to unpack exactly why you're feeling that way. And trust me, it's probably not what you think.
It is incredibly frustrating, right? Because you didn't ignore your finances, you actually put in the work, you hit those milestones. But it really feels like you're not actually getting ahead. It's like the finish line just keeps moving further and further away. I want to validate that feeling for you right now. That is not just anxiety talking, it's not imposter syndrome, and it is definitely not you just being ungrateful. That feeling? That's your instincts correctly identifying a massive, glaring problem that mainstream financial advice created and then, honestly, just never bothered to fix for you.
And here's the core thesis we are going to break down today. For millions of people, that foundational $5,000 emergency fund isn't actually the destination. It is secretly a trap. Yep, you heard that right. It's a foundational savings goal that is silently morphed into a ceiling, and it is actively stalling your wealth building. Now look, I'm absolutely not here to tell you that saving money is bad or that emergency funds are some kind of scam. But I am going to show you how a piece of genuinely good advice gets completely misapplied and how it could literally be costing you a decade of financial progress.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, the emergency fund trap.
To really understand this trap, we kind of have to look back at the early 2000s, right? Personalities like Dave Ramsey made this specific framework super mainstream. You know the drill. Step 1, save $1,000. Step 2, pay off your debt. Step 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses. It's clean, it's simple, and it absolutely works as a starting framework. But here's the huge problem. Most people just stop there. They hit that initial 3 to 6 months, let's say it's around $5,000, they get that immense psychological relief of having a cushion, and then they unconsciously treat that number as a permanent goal instead of just a checkpoint. They just keep adding to it, and suddenly the $5,000 that was supposed to be a solid foundation quietly becomes a concrete ceiling. And the harsh reality here really lies in the math. When you have $5,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account earning, let's say, 4.5% annually, your brain immediately registers that as progress. You're earning $225 a year. It feels super responsible. But your brain isn't calculating inflation in real time. With U.S. inflation averaging around 3.5% over the last several years, your 4.5% return minus that 3.5% inflation leaves you with a real return of roughly 1%. 1%. You are literally just preserving your money. You are not growing it. But the whole banking interface is specifically designed to make you feel like those two things are exactly the same.
So while you're just preserving your money at a tiny 1% real return, the S&P 500 has historically returned around 10% annually before inflation. The gap between your safe emergency fund and a basic index fund is roughly 6% every single year. On $5,000, that's $300 a year. Doesn't sound like a big deal, right? Well, wait until you compound it over a 30-year time frame. In that savings account, at 4.5%, your money slowly becomes about $17,000. But in an index fund at 10%, it skyrockets to $87,000. It's practically night and day.
Think about that for a second. That means you just left $70,000 on the table by blindly following conventional advice and never stopping to question whether it's still applied to your current life. 70 grand. That is a staggering opportunity cost, all for the illusion of total safety.
Let's keep rolling into Section 2, the math behind the myth. To really see how this behavioral hurdle messes with us in real life, let me introduce you to a quick case study. Meet Kayla. She's 29, she makes $68,000 a year working in healthcare admin, and her situation brilliantly illustrates this trap in action. So Kayla has $5,200 in her emergency fund, earning her that 4.5%, right? But she also has $4,800 in credit card debt, and that's costing her 22% in interest. Every single month, like clockwork, Kayla automatically adds $200 to her emergency fund and completely ignores her debt. And honestly, she sleeps better. She knows her savings number is growing. It feels like she's doing the responsible thing because literally every article she's ever read told her to prioritize that emergency fund. But let's look at the actual net result here. Because she's earning 4.5% while simultaneously paying 22% on her debt, she is actively losing 17.5 percentage points every single month on money that is sitting right there, literally 2 feet away from the problem. Her emergency fund is actively costing her money rather than protecting her. The trap isn't that the emergency fund exists. No,
The trap is that nobody ever tapped Kayla on the shoulder and told her when to stop feeding it and start actually deploying it.
Okay, which brings us to Section 3, redefining financial insurance.
We are hitting a massive psychological hurdle right here. Somewhere along the way, the emergency fund morphed from a financial tool into a comfort object. It became like a personality trait to prove to the world we have our lives together. We really need to redefine what this money actually is. An emergency fund has exactly one job: to prevent a financial shock from turning into a total financial spiral. That is it, the whole shebang. It is not an investment vehicle, it is not a wealth-building tool, it is financial insurance. And just like your car insurance or health insurance, you want the absolute minimum amount necessary to do the job effectively, not the maximum amount you can possibly hoard.
So that begs the question, what's the actual right number? Well, research from the Urban Institute offers a pretty fascinating answer. They found that households with as little as $2,000 in liquid savings are significantly less likely to experience severe financial hardship after an income shock. Going from $0 to $2,000, that creates a massive life-saving protective buffer. But going from $2,000 to $10,000, the actual incremental benefit there is way smaller than most people assume. You really don't need a Scrooge McDuck vault of cash to be safe. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking, but what if my transmission drops out and I only have $3,000 in savings? Let's look at the probability math for a second. According to Bankrate, the most common financial emergencies cost a lot less than our anxiety tells us they will. Car repairs, they average $500 to $1,500. Unexpected medical bills, usually between $1,000 and $2,500. Home repairs, roughly $1,000 to $3,000. So a $3,000 emergency fund comfortably handles the vast majority of real-world, everyday disaster scenarios. For most single-income earners in a stable job, 3 months of essential, and I mean bare-bones essential, not lifestyle expenses, is genuinely enough. Moving right along to Section 4, 2 paths to wealth.
Let's do a little side-by-side comparison of two 32-year-old guys. We'll call them both Marcus. So both Marcuses make $75,000 a year. Both have $8,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account, and both have $6,000 in credit card debt at a painful 19% interest. Now, version 1 Marcus follows the safe, conventional path. He absolutely refuses to touch his $8,000 savings because, hey, that's his safety net. So he makes the minimum payments on his credit card and keeps adding $300 a month to his savings. Then we have version 2 Marcus. He decides to do the psychologically uncomfortable thing. He takes $5,000 out of his precious emergency fund and immediately deploys it to attack that high-interest credit card debt.
Let's walk through Marcus 2's timeline, because it's awesome. In month 1, he drops his savings down to $3,000. Now, that still covers his absolute bare essentials for 2 months, right? And he uses that $5,000 to wipe out almost all of his debt. Boom. By month 2, he attacks the remaining $1,000 with his normal cash flow, and suddenly he's completely debt-free. Fast forward to month 12. Because he's no longer bleeding $95 every month just to credit card interest, he's redirected that cash. He's easily rebuilt his emergency fund at $3,600, and now he's investing $200 a month into index funds. After 5 years, the difference in net worth between these two guys is literally tens of thousands of dollars. And it's all because Marcus 2 broke that psychological trap of just hoarding cash.
All right, bringing it home with Section 5, the deployment framework. So how do we actually apply this to your money today? Well, if you have a fully funded emergency fund, but you are still carrying high-interest debt, and let's define that as basically anything above 8%, you have way too much in savings relative to your situation. Here's the step-by-step framework to shift from just saving to actively deploying. Step 1. Secure 2 to 3 months of purely essential expenses. Stop right there. Step 2. Take any excess capital and violently eliminate any debt over 8%. Just crush it. Step 3. Once that toxic debt's completely gone, then you can build that savings back up to the 3 to 6 month mark. But step 4, and this is absolutely crucial, once you hit that mark, pivot hard to investing, stop feeding the savings account entirely, redirect all that powerful cash flow into appreciating assets like index funds. You know, the really wealthy people studied in our sources, they do not keep massive, bloated emergency funds. They just keep enough liquidity to handle bumps in the road without having to sell off investments at a bad time, and then they put the rest of their money to work. As the source material beautifully sums it up, the emergency fund is a bridge. It is not the destination. Your $5,000 savings balance was meant to help get you to the next stage faster. It was never meant to become the stage itself.
Ultimately, the difference between feeling financially stuck and building serious life-changing momentum isn't just about how much you can save. It's about knowing exactly when a financial tool has finished doing its job, stopping, and deploying your money elsewhere. So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to kind of challenge your financial identity today.
I want you to go look at your accounts. Is your money actively building real wealth for your future? Or is it just sitting there, silently losing value to inflation, simply buying you the temporary feeling of comfort? Really think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.